Thank you, Curtis and Alora. That was beautiful. And Janet, where did you go? Thank you for the meditation. And Lyriel for that amazing reading. All setting the groundwork for part 4. So, this talk. We wanted a theme this month of this process of sort of looking within and discovering who we are, on this spiritual journey. Who are we? That's sort of the question. The question. Why are we here? Who am I? Who are you? So I am wanting to base most of what I have to say on my personal experience in the teaching of the Buddha as presented to me in this Western form, in a non-dogmatic or religious way, but more in a practical approach way. And a book I had found a while back was by Robert Wright, Why Buddhism is True. And he goes on a very meandering journey about his own experience of meditating and coming to some of the practices through Vipassana meditation and teaching in silent retreats that happen in this country. And anyway, so that was one source. And then, of course, A Course in Miracles, which I've been studying for 20 plus years, thinking before we started this place. And I think what Lyriel read from Eckhart Tolle really is an excellent groundwork for us living this life, creating who we think we are. We create ourselves from early childhood all the way up until we perhaps hit a wall, sometimes reaching that darkest hour when what we think our mind, which is in control, which is not, has created, is all that we are. And then we discover that, doesn't seem to be working anymore. And somehow we start looking inside. We start questioning. And I think probably anybody who's in this room has already been on that journey. And that's why you're here. That's why you're here. You've already done a lot of work, like all of us have done. And, the questions keep coming. And the complexities, even in preparing for this talk, you wouldn't believe how many rabbit holes I went down. I thought about a quote I wanted to use in the talk, and so I searched for that. And then, I ended up for hours last night reading about Egyptian religion because I was thinking about using a quote from what Jim Phillips had brought to us back in January and February. And all it did is add more confusion, way more confusion. And then the Buddha's teaching on not self, and is it not self or non-self, and this is what one tradition thinks and this is what another thinks, and I'm tied up in knots, not knowing anything. Just not knowing anything. So then I'm thinking, isn't that perfect? Isn't that the point? And yeah, Spirit, you've got a funny sense of humor. This morning I woke up to the song Nowhere Man, and I thought, oh, that must have some deep spiritual meaning. So I look it up and no. No, John Lennon said he was struggling to write a song. They had to get one more song on the Rubber Soul album. And, he finally just gave up and went to sleep, and the song came to him. And it's, whatever. Whatever. And, okay, so that is the point. Whatever we think, whatever our thoughts are, we're making it up. We don't know. We put the meaning into everything because that's what we do. That's what we are trying to do in this life. We're struggling through trying to make sense of things. And somehow, isn't it interesting, it's when we give up that the truth enters in, that the resolution is found. It's all within. So I have sort of 3 ideas about what we do to answer that question, who am I? Just some things that we do. We listen and read your inspirational talks and writings, and there are plenty of those. So we do a lot of just feeding the curiosity, and like I said, sometimes you go down the rabbit holes, but there's a great deal. I mean, Eckhart Tolle is a beautiful example, and I had one little saying from him: the ego is sustained by continuous resistance. The ego is sustained by continuous resistance. And of course, the Miracles tells us we need to be vigilant. We need to be vigilant in every single moment at which voice we're listening to. Are we listening to that egoic voice that's trying to create this false self, trying to protect and maintain the false self? Or are we going to listen to that other voice that is present, that tells us who we really are? So the message in A Course in Miracles is the book is about teaching us to recognize all the blocks that we've put up. It's teaching us to recognize how we believe we're separate, and we believe we're small, and then sometimes we believe we're fabulous. I'm less than, I'm more than, and I go back and forth, looking for peace but never finding peace, looking for love but never finding love. And so the Course gives us lessons to practice, bit by bit. There's 365 lessons. Technically, you could do it in a year, but sometimes it takes longer. Because, and what did I just say? The ego is sustained by continuous resistance. Resist those truths. I can do it better myself. But if we really commit to a practice, it doesn't have to be the Course. The Course was a good one for me. It was a good fit. And I believe it saved my life in so many ways, and it's brought me through so many hardships that the teachings have been very valuable to me. So bit by bit, it will give us a lesson to help us see deeply how we've miscreated this world that we see. Starting out with simple things like, I have given this pencil all the meaning that it has for me. And, you think, well, so what, it's a pencil, but you generalize it. I have given that look that person gave me all the meaning that it has for me. And we go through our life each day with our mind always on the lookout for protecting this body, protecting this personality, protecting this ego. It's exhausting, and the Course tells us, it's exhausting. All the effort you put in blocking the truth. Why not look at it a different way? So, day by day, as the lessons are practiced, start to see how I've given everything all the meaning that it has for me. And essentially, I'm depressed because I see a meaningless world, because I'm making it all up, and I'm not living in the truth. So, simple lessons to begin with. It goes on and encourages us to reflect and meditate on the various thoughts in each of the daily lessons. How many people have studied the Course and done the lessons? Okay, so a few. It's not a book for everybody. It's not a path for everybody. But when it does fit, I think it is a very, very deep and meaningful one. So the first half of the lessons are about undoing. They're about seeing what I've made up and what I think, and recognizing that, well, it's asking us to ask the question, is that so? Is that so? And it includes things about helping us recognize when we project on other people. Anything, in other traditions they talk about the mirror, and everything's a mirror that is reflecting back what's in my mind, what's in me. And so, the same thing happens with these lessons. And, there's one I remember where, as soon as you're judging your brother, realize that the sword is hanging over your head and it's going to fall on you. There's lessons about, giving and receiving, that to give is to receive. And, one comes to realize the truth of it all. I had an experience the other day. I went to a pizza shop to pick up a pizza, and I walked in, and I'm all happy, and I say, hello, I'd like to order a pizza. And the person who came to the counter was like, ugh. She barely looked at me, and, instead of saying hello back or, how can I help you or whatever, she goes to the computer and says, last name. And I had run into this person before, and I remember, and I had judgment then too, and I remember thinking, I'm going to tell Randall about this, and, tell him to look out for this one, And of course he'd say, oh yeah, well, I know that person. Yeah, she's really sweet. But anyway, so, I'm having this shutdown, feeling really separate from that person. And then so I went and sat down and waited for my pizza, and I think, I hope I hear my name when it's called. I was the only one in the store, but still, I just wasn't sure if I was going to get my pizza. And, 10, 15 minutes later, whatever, she walks around, and she's standing there smiling at me. She said, here's your pizza, as sweet as can be. Well, I don't know what happened there, I wasn't conscious in the moment. I didn't see my judgment in that moment. I was deep in my judgment and, creating the story of, increasing the story by telling it when I got home. And then I'm leaving, and I'm in my car, and I'm remembering that I'm doing this talk today, and I just started laughing. Again, isn't that just a perfect example of noticing how we are in just everyday common things in life? And, lightening up. The point is not to say, oh, look, there you were again being judgmental. It's no, there I was again being judgmental. And I can choose differently and, be joyous about it. And I'm sure next time I go get a pizza, I'm going to just love that woman. And in fact, I don't even have to wait till I go, The Course tells us frequently that what we are is an idea, a thought. God is a thought, and we are a thought in God's mind, and that's all we are. And so you could say that as, that's all we are, or that's all we are. And isn't that magnificent? Because, how else can you join? Of course, in other traditions who talk about joining, that, we need to join with our brother. We're all one. Our minds are all one. How can that be if we're bodies, and we're separate and we're far away? And so there's evidence that our minds are connected. They are one. And, as we go through our existence and experience that, I think the other point I wanted to make in the talk is that it's not about knowing things and knowledge and reading all this stuff that I uselessly read over the last few weeks, but having the experience of it. having the experience. And Ali Hussein, who's teaching our Sufi class, talks about, you can know all the chemical makeup of honey and, where it comes from and how it's, da-da-da-da, and the bees and whatever. But do you know what it tastes like through that? Do the facts about it tell you and give you the experience of how it tastes? No, you have to taste it. And these exercises, or when you sit and meditate, it's going deep inside and looking and looking and looking and looking and asking and having it revealed and having the experience that's important. That brings it home. That's the true teaching. That's the true beauty of the practices. And so we can listen and read inspirational things. I mean, honestly, when I read Rumi, even though it's reading, it's poetry, I still haven't figured out the poem that you read. I mean, my mind is trying to figure it out instead of feel it. And, there's something there. There's something there in that Kahil Gibran, right? Kahil Gibran, yeah. But sometimes poetry or music, and that's poetry and music, yes, will give us experience, even though it's words. It gives us an experience and the aha. And, so if I read some of Rumi's poetry, I totally get that you can be ecstatic in the love of God, in the love of the beloved, and have that oneness. And there are many paths about meditating and self-inquiry. Let's see, Ramana, where is it? I had a little. And there's also the paradox of life, we're body, we're spirit, we're back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But Ramana Maharishi says, the world is illusory. Brahman alone is real. Brahman is the world. The world is illusory. Brahman alone is real. Brahman is the world. And of course, the Miracles has another similar quote: nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And so, reading things like that, you just hear it. You just let those words sink in, and you can get the experience of peace. And then this is another Rumi poem. This we have now is the name of the poem. This we have now is not imagination. This is not grief or joy, not a judging state or an elation or sadness. Those come and go. This is the presence that doesn't. This is the presence that doesn't. So we want to taste, we want to experience that presence that doesn't come and go. And we all can do that. And we need to get quiet. We need to just be still, listen, be with ourselves, be not afraid to notice. Judging the pizza lady. The truth is, she is me and I am her. And there's that oneness, there's that heart that really connects us. And that's what we're searching for. That's what brings peace to our life. That's what opens the heart, opens the door. That's what we do here. We come together and we see there's no need for fear in this place. There's no need for fear. There's no separation. There's only open, loving hearts. And so we let all that other stuff go. And, the challenge is, let's take that out the door. Let's take that to our workplaces. Let's take that to our families that maybe don't think in the same way we think, or don't take the time to experience those things. And so we come here, we learn about practices, we experience, all the music and poetry and reading and meditation that we've experienced already this morning. Like, wow, am I ever full? I feel really full of the love and the sharing, the connection. I think I feel like I want to kind of stay in that space. So I want to close with this quote from the Course. The self that God created needs nothing. It is forever complete, safe, loved, and loving. The self that God created needs nothing. It is forever complete, safe, loved, and loving. It seeks to share rather than to get, to extend rather than project. It has no needs and wants to join with others out of their mutual awareness of abundance. It has no needs and wants to join with others. It has no needs and wants to join with others out of their mutual awareness of abundance. And so may we know there's always enough. There's always, always, always enough. And that the more we share, the more abundance flows back. It's a constant give and take, constantly. And that's a peaceful way to live, and it's a possible way to live all the time. And so may we go forth and live that peace and abundance that we were meant to be here for. Namaste.